And do you want to say anything about him at all? I have not taken a workshop from him when he was in Salt Lake City a few years ago. He's a fun guy.
Yeah, Mary and I actually drove out to the studio and did a workshop with him for a week. And it's an amazing workshop. He is just probably one of the most fun people to be around. He will teach you things about doing painting, painting with your fingers, painting with long sticks, painting with, just a very different way to approach painting. He does mostly acrylics, so this would be an acrylic workshop, water media, but just a really good experience. So something different for all of us. We also have another exhibition coming up. It will overlap with the Small Works exhibition. It is July 14th will be the opening night, which is Gallery Walk in Logan. The prospectus for that exhibition will be coming out in the next couple of weeks. So after the Small Works one opens, and it will close the end of May. And we'll take delivery of the paintings. All of that will be in the prospectus, but just another chance for you to get your artwork out. In Cache Valley, they have divided their shows into two categories. There'll be a category for amateurs and a category for professional artists, and that will all be explained in the prospectus as well. And the paintings will be at Furman's Gallery, so that is a change. And they'll be up for a couple of months. So good opportunity with summer citizens in Cache Valley and with the Opera Festival to have your artwork seen by a wide variety of folks. There's a lot of traffic through that area.
Great.
So thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. Beautiful,
Small Works.
Beautiful time to be up in Cache Valley.
Yeah, that's
just another plug for journaling through illustration. If you haven't been part of this group or would be interested in being part of this group, they meet before this meeting at 6:30 from 6:30 to 7. And Beth Ann, Beth Ann, hello. Now I see you. Are you planning on having the illustration group meet next May,
yes.
The May meeting?
The May meeting.
As well?
Yes.
Okay. And through June?
But we won't do June.
Not June. So last chance this UWS calendar year, May will be the last time and then resume in September. Western Fed. Christy and Maura headed off to Oregon, so that meeting is occurring this coming week. So they're off. They took a workshop with Jeannie McGuire, who juried the Western Fed exhibition, and then all the events are happening this coming week. So no word on that yet. And I just wanted to thanks, a preliminary thanks. This is the first year that the Utah Watercolor Society was part of the Love Utah, Give Utah campaign. So we've had several years of people saying, oh, we should do this, and we're a nonprofit, and so I felt like this was a kind of support the arts year for sure, and so I did register us, and we have had a few donations, so I'm happy about that. Just a few announcements. I have Julie Ickey's name, but yes. Yes, come on.
Okay.
So Julie has a guest here tonight who will speak a little bit about what Julie has been working on with him.
Okay, so
We have Guadalupe here with us tonight. He's from Style Craft, who is a wholesale framing company. So he has some information and some special deals for us. So turn the time over to him.
Thank you for having me here.
I don't have his permission to
I'm
film.
with Stylecraft. I've been here for many, many years. Stylecraft has been around since 1973. And we're basically a manufacturer of framing supplies art, but we're also a distributor of framing supplies. We cater to artists in particular. We do a lot of work for artists in southern Utah as well as northern Utah. Julie Rogers, all around, Logan Lee. We do a lot of their framing, and they order a lot of frames to us. We have a lot of dedicated people that are really helpful with design work or any special needs. We have over 3,000 frames. Also, we do our own building. We can practically do any color that you can think of. So if you have a special need or a request for your framing, you can do that.
Sorry, I'm resting my hand on
Here's
the
an
computer.
example of our things that we know they're on the rustic frame,
Put it in my pockets.
or
Make your wife mad.
just a traditional two-tone frame. These are the things that we know there, from 1 inch to 4 inches, we do there. Sorry? We carry a wide range of materials, glasses from non-glare to conservation to museum quality. And we also do special items for if you need something else besides watercolor. For instance, jerseys or something that keepsakes that you want framed, we can do that for you. We also do shipping. And we also do deliveries. If you have something you can't pick up yourself, we can deliver that for you. Usually at no charge. So, if you guys order through the Utah Watercolor Society, we'll give you a wholesale discount, which is about 50 cents below retail. So it's actually pretty good. So that way you can give those savings to your potential buyers, right? Also, we have, mat board, mat glass, foam board, game board, things like that. And we have a really quick turnaround time, usually a week or less. It depends on what you need, and if we have the frames in house.
So I have a question. So if someone likes to do their own framing, can they buy materials through you?
Yeah, you can buy the mat board or mat brushes are from $3.50 to $11 for standard sizes. Surely oversized, acid-free as well. So yeah,
The wood molding,
wood molding too.
sell chops.
Yes, we can sell the chalk and join, or you can buy the link. So yeah. Stylecraft. It's on 1650 South Redwood Road. And if you'd like, you come on there and take a tour of our place. It's always interesting to see what we do.
What is your phone number then?
801-972-4154.
So Guadalupe, to bring some business cards, I wonder if you have any.
Well, I have some. I can bring some more, but I've got a few back there, and there's some mat board specifiers and some brochures and some of the artwork that we do. You can see what kind of work we do.
So if someone comes to you, they just say you're a member of the
Well, yeah.
Utah Watercolor Society?
And then you use your name as a PO, so they know who goes. Any questions?
Another option for discount for UWS members and
Thank you.
does anyone from the membership have any announcements? Kind of been lax about asking for that. Any exhibitions or by Zach, and we're happy about it, and we think them both. Tonight, we have Lindey Carter, and the topic is finding balance, and she's being sponsored by Tom Howard. You remember this year we had different members sponsor different instructors for these monthly demos. So tonight is Tom's night, and he's going to introduce Lindey.
So actually, I do have an announcement, but I thought I'd wait till I got up here. But so during the summer semester for Salt Lake Community College, I'll be teaching another watercolor class. It'll be on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 5:30 to 8:40 p.m. and it'll be at the Jordan campus. And I'll get an announcement out about that and try to get a blast sent out about it so that you can know about it. But you're welcome to come and take the class. We have a lot of fun. We even eat food and drink there. And no spirits, can't be allowed on campus. Sorry. Okay. All right. Yes. When the word was put out to ask members to help with inviting people to come and talk to the Utah Watercolor Society at our monthly meetings, Lindey's name came to mind immediately. I first got to know Lindey through her paintings at Phillips Gallery, and when I first saw her work there, I thought this is wonderfully simple, wonderfully reductive, and yet very rich in content, and I really enjoyed seeing her work. So we've become friends, and I got to know her and her husband and some of her kids, not all of them, they were off to school. At times I stopped by for a visit or two, but they live and work in the Ogden area, and I'll give her a chance to tell you more about them as a family. But I'm the proud owner of, I think, at least 4, maybe 5 pieces by Lindey. I think her work is just wonderful. So without any further ado, I'll go ahead and turn the time over to Lindey Carter.
Tom has, since I've got to know him, has been a mentor to me. Anytime I've had questions or problems, I'm like, Mom, what should I do here? And he's a great soundboard for me, so when I've been able to bounce questions or ideas off him, it's been really nice to know him. And very blessed in that area. I'm grateful to be here tonight. Thank you for having me. I especially wanted to also thank Paige Kimball. Talking about finding the balance, it seems like my life is always being juggled and sloshed and moved and adapted, and my husband surprised me with a trip to Cancun, and Paige was nice enough to swap me in the last minute and make things work so we could switch, and I could go and still be here tonight. So thanks to her. Anyways, my name is Lindey Carter, and like Tom said, we live in the Ogden area. We live in North Ogden. My husband and I are both from Utah. I grew up in Kaysville. I went to Davis High. I was a Sterling Scholar at Davis. I don't remember the year, let's say. It was a while ago, 1986. And I grew up in Kaysville in a pretty big family. There was 6 girls, and we had one brother at the end. And my family was very active, very athletic, very rambunctious. Sometimes I felt like I was in a family more of boys than girls. We were always bouncing off the walls, putting holes, denting things. I remember being chased by someone with a knife. I have stitches all over. We were just very rambunctious and very, very physical. And one of the ways that I dealt with that big family and a lot of that chaos was I would escape and find kind of quiet, alone time space, and I would often escape into drawing or painting. My grandma was the first one that introduced me to watercolor. She gave me a watercolor set, and I remember dipping a pencil in the water and seeing it start to bleed, and that was it for me. I've been a watercolorist ever since. So growing up, I studied at, even in high school and at university. I went to Weber to start with. I got a scholarship and went to Weber there. Should probably start with some slides. There's my family. Let's skip right over them. We'll backtrack a little bit. So this is my family. My husband and I have 4 kids. Our oldest is 14, and then we have 11-year-old Mason and 9-year-old Hadley and 6-year-old Emmett. My youngest is finally in kindergarten, and I feel like my world is starting to open up a little bit. I joke that we are in this perfect place right now between diapers and dating. And so those are going to last long, but it's really nice right now. Anyway, so we'll go back to, this is a picture that I did in high school. Very traditional, and I started off with watercolor very traditionally, learning how to make things work. And that's my nieces at the Hopewell Zoo, like I said, just from Utah. This is one of my nieces. So then I got a scholarship to Weber, where I studied, I went into art and did my generals, basically painting and doing the regular generals there. And then I served at LDS mission to the Canary Islands. And it was actually kind of interesting when I went on my mission. Art had been a really important, big part of my life. That's how I handled a lot of things. You know, like I said, my family was really rambunctious, and I was always stressed, and that was a good stress reliever and a way to escape. Well, when I went on my mission, it was taken away from me for a while. I remember on a payday, and I don't know if any of you have served missions or anything, but you have a break on one of the days in which you can kind of take a break and not do missionary work. You clean your apartment, and then you have some activity or free time. And I tried to sketch and use that time to paint. And it was like I was broken. It would not work. I couldn't paint. I couldn't sketch. And I remember just being really frustrated. And a thought came to my mind that that it wasn't my time to do that and to put it away and to be on the Lord's time. And the reason I mention this is because I am LDS, and I feel like this is a gift and a talent that comes from God. And it's important to me to recognize that from very early on, I recognized if I didn't have a good balance in my life with the spiritual side, that this side of me wouldn't work. And so they go hand in hand. When I came back from serving my mission, I was married like typical, right, within 6 months. And I came back and jumped right back into school and was trying to get things finished up. And I met my husband, and we had a baby pretty quickly. And I was wanting to hurry and finish my school. And so I transferred to the U, and that's when I got pregnant. And so I did a couple semesters there, and then I transferred back to Weber. And before, I wanted to hurry and finish, and so I was all set to get a BFA, but instead, with the way things were changing in my life, again, I had to find a different balance. What path that I thought I was heading down wasn't quite what needed to happen. I needed to hurry through school a little bit quicker. And I don't know if you've taken art classes, but they want you to take art classes, and they want you there for 3 hours at a time, multiple times a week. And with the baby, I just couldn't do that. And so what I ended up doing to finish my degree is I ended up taking a lot of upper division English classes. And I balanced that with traditional art classes. And what it ended up doing for me that was really nice, and I think really played a part into the way that I paint and how I see things. My upper division English classes were really interesting. So this is one of the first paintings that I did in college, and it was during our religious honors religion class. And it's the balance of the yin yang. So you can kind of see that yin yang symbol in there, the balance of the light and the dark. And I started to draw from things that I was reading and things that inspired me when I was in school. This is another one from a Shakespeare class. If you've read King Lear, you know how awful that story is. At times were kind of a madness, and that was my response to one of Shakespeare's plays. One of the lines in the play is "Nature's above art" in that respect, and I think sometimes we try to capture that nature, things that were that emotion, those things that we find, and that's what we do as artists. One thing that I thought was interesting that a professor pointed out to me that was also really neat was it was this kind of a dark painting and very expressive, and I didn't like where it was going. It was a little too raw and a little too much for me, and I drew in an orange flower to kind of balance that back out. And my professor, when I turned it in, showed me an artist who did these beautiful paintings, and they were very full of emotion, but she always painted a little bit of, even if they were kind of heavy, emotional paintings, there was always a little bit of hope in the painting. And so I try to remember that, sometimes even if my paintings, every once in a while I'll get kind of a heavy, gray, cloudy, stormy day, that there's always a sliver of light, something that I like to balance it back out with, just that little bit of hope. And this next one was a series again, these upper division English classes, I did my English paper. In the paper, I did some Norman Rockwell. I called them Mormon Rockwells, and I compared and contrasted Norman Rockwell and his style of painting and his influence with Charles Dickens and that kind of genre of literature. It was interesting to compare the two and see how they related in that field. The next couple slides are paintings that I did to finish off my schooling. I felt bad that I didn't really get my BFA because I switched gears. But I wanted to do an art show and have, my minute. And so what I did instead is I painted some paintings for the professors that I had known throughout my university, and took things from them that really made an impact on me. And so these next slides are the very first paintings that I did as I was finishing. So this one was a professor, and he was just really moody, really deep professor. He was an English teacher, and I always felt like I was flailing and drowning in these big waves as he would delve deep into this poetry that I was struggling with. And anyway, so that was for him. This was for Professor Maykoff. She focused a lot on the process of printmaking and photography. I took a lot of classes from her, and they were very impactful for me. And so this was about just the process, and that a lot of time you don't get to the harvest until the very end. But the process of going through everything is important, or you don't get the harvest. The next one was from Angelica Pagel, and she taught me right off the get-go that you're able to recognize an artist through their details and through the cohesiveness of their work over time. And the next one was from Professor Sessions. He had us read a book called Shiloh by Shelby Foote. And what was interesting about this was, as I read it, I think I was in this English class with all these English majors, and they see things very in a different way than artists do. And I've often thought how wrong almost it is that they segregate us into those schools of thought almost, and I wish we could kind of tie them back together. Because as I read the book Shiloh, the whole first half of the book was blue. Every word that he used to describe something was gray or blue, mostly blue, and like gray blues. And then halfway through the book, as the tide turned in the story, every word he used to describe something was red. And so I wrote a paper on it, and I found all of the sources, and I went through that book with a fine-tooth comb picking out the colors, because that's what I felt when I read it, but I wasn't sure until I went through with a highlighter and found out that's exactly what happened. Well, the professor knew Shelby Foote and had him actually come to the school and talk to us, and so I asked him, why did you do that? Why did you make it all one color and then switch in such a contrasting way? And he didn't even know that he had done that. It just happened without him even being aware. So that was just interesting how often color influences people, and even in their writing, and they're not even aware of it. So that was another one of mine from college that was impactful to me. I think now when I read, sometimes I'll focus a little bit, sometimes on the mood and color. The last one was from Professor Voss, and it's called A God's View. His classes were incredibly hard. They were a lot of reading and a lot of writing. He was the only one that wouldn't let me paint. He made me write. Most of them I could get away with painting a little bit and writing some too. And he was like, no, you're going to write. And by the time I was finished, I felt like I had climbed Everest. And a lot of the subject matter that he had us read was about Krakauer and some of those really impactful stories, heart-wrenching experiences of people who climbed Everest. Anyway, so that's my schooling, and that's kind of where I got started. And not long after that, I graduated. And I was sitting on the side of the road, and Mary from Phillips came and took me into her gallery, and I've been in there ever since at Phillips, and they've just been great and have been great with me. The next part of things that I wanted to talk about is just how I've continued to draw inspiration from things and kind of what inspires me. This one was from a seminar I went to after, and someone taught me this Fibonacci sequence, which I had never heard of. And so it goes 0, and then you add 0 to 1, and then you add 1 to 1. So, and then you take the next. I'm describing this horribly. I hope someone knows what I'm saying. And then you add the next one. So it's 1 plus 2 is 3, and 3 plus 2 is 5, and then 5 plus 3 is 8. And it continues on like that. It's the Fibonacci sequence. It's also the same ratios, the golden, what's that called? The golden mean, right? Anyway, so I just thought that was important to add. A lot of things inspire me. This is, the title of this painting is The Contrast of White on White. It's from a Counting Crows song. talks about, he's singing about walking out into the fog and just recognizing that contrast that most people don't really pay attention to. The next one is called Yellow-Haired Girls. And I titled it that because my family were all blondes. And I feel like sometimes flowers or birds are symbolic of people. And so even though sometimes my paintings look simple, there's usually a little more depth to them. And this was a painting that I did in response to my family as it was growing, and just being a part of that family where a lot of the time we all looked like exactly the same. You know, we all looked very much alike, and yet wanting to be an individual in this garden that looks very similar. The next painting I added, this is my only oil that I added. I kept almost everything watercolor just for you. But this was an oil painting that I did, and I threw this one because I thought it was kind of a funny thing that my husband actually asked our dentist if he would trade dental work for artwork. And his wife had seen my work. This was only like this couple of years ago. And it's a lot of watercolor landscapes. I rarely do some portraits, but very rarely. And so I go to her house thinking, and I had all my watercolors thinking we were going to just trade, and she was going to buy a watercolor painting, and I was going to get a root canal. And she said instead she wanted me to do an oil painting of Christ. And so that just always made me laugh, because that's sometimes how commissions are for me. You know, you think you have a style, and you have kind of who you are, and you have your expectation of doing a commission, and then the client wants something completely different. But anyway, so I thought this was kind of a fun one to show, just that balance of finding a way to still give the client what they want, but still finding your own voice in it and still being happy with it in the end. Going back to that balance again, and commissions are like that for me. They're not my favorite things sometimes, but usually at the end they work out good and I'm happy with them. So that I just threw that one in as sometimes you have to work a little harder with the inspiration. But this one's one of my favorites. My daughter Hadley. This is Hadley's portrait. She's 9 and she's pink. Everything about her is pink, and these are her shoes. So it's a self-portrait of her. And my little Hadley girl, she is an animal lover, and my poor husband is allergic. So she's been begging me for a dog since I think she could say the word dog. She's wanted a puppy, and the artist mom that I am, I was at an art show, and I found her a puppy, and I bought a painting of her, of Crystal Harper's, and it was a puppy. And this is one that I actually did of Crystal Harper's painting. Crystal has become a good friend of mine, and her dog Buttercup, and that's the painting I bought for my Hadley, who just loves dogs and loves the painting and is so happy about it. Well, her dog passed away, and I every time I walked by the painting, I kind of had this little bad feeling because I had her Buttercup, and I didn't know if she was able to keep a painting. I think sometimes as artists we give and then we don't keep of our own things, and so I painted this for her of the painting that she did for my daughter, so I could give it to her so she could have a picture of her dog as well. And so that's another way that we're inspired by things. I think we're influenced by other artists, we're influenced by them, and we don't even recognize, I think, sometimes how we're influenced. I think it goes unnoticed a lot of the times. This is very typical of my work. I've been told that I have an Asian influence. I don't know where that comes from other than I like empty spaces. And I'll often focus in on a branch or a small section of a landscape, a single bird on a branch, This one's called A Slight Shrug. Words always for me are about to tell me something, and then I'll move, and then they're gone, and I always feel like I missed it. Anyway, this one kind of looked at me like, I don't know, and I was like, me neither. But, this one is, I like to do cherry blossoms. I love blossoms. I hate how fleeting they are. we have them for just a minute, and so one of the things that I do when I get a chance to get a blossom, and I have stolen some blossoms from parks and cut some twigs off of neighbors' yards. I asked the neighbors, but I might not have asked the park. But one of the things that I've done that is kind of a trick, just because they are kind of hard, and once you can have them for like a couple hours in a jar, but they'll start to just fall apart. And so one of the things that I do that you'll be able to see as you look in some of my blossoms is I'll take it and paint it one way and then twist it and paint the same branch over and over and over. So this is actually the same branch, just painted, held differently, and I do that a lot with my blossoms. That's another one. So again, that's one branch just held differently, and you're able to see different angles. And I'm always surprised how one branch looks so different turned upside down, or held at a different angle, or cropped at a different place. And so as I was talking about things that influence us and what we notice and how we're influenced by other artists, and we don't always take note of it, my mom lived down in Syracuse, and every time I would drive out there, it's out by the bird refuge, and there's a lot of very flat grasslands and big skies. And I noticed when she moved down there, my work started taking on a lot of that influence. This one is actually from Antelope Island. I have a lot of landscapes that are driving down to my mom's. Well, funny, she landscapes that I was seeing to turn in. And it was funny because I hadn't done mountains until my mom moved, and I didn't notice it until I looked back at when she moved, and when all of a sudden I started. I didn't do it consciously. It just sort of happened. That's just what I was being more exposed to. I'm going to say something else with that. I can't think of what it was. So anyway, I'll tell you a little bit about how I paint, and what inspires me, and kind of how I like to paint. I don't necessarily paint from photographs. I don't always have a branch to look at or something to hold on to or a still life. I like to usually just attack a painting. I just start, and sometimes I'll have a sketch, and I do keep a notepad of things that inspire me. Like if I'm flipping through a magazine and I like somebody's gray shirt with that carrot orange scarf, I'll write down gray with carrot orange and know that I want to do a painting that has gray and carrot orange and cream with a little bit of green, and I'll write those notes down and keep that, and I'll start a painting based off of a note like that. Or sometimes I will take a photograph. I am horrible at photography. I think one of the worst things that I have a bad habit of, and I don't know if you guys do this as you're driving, but anytime I'm outside or in the car or even in the home, I'm constantly looking at things and breaking them apart and how that I would paint them. And I just do it all the time as I'm driving down the road. I like the way that light hits, and I don't always write those moments down, but I'm doing that constantly. anytime I look at a field, I'm breaking it apart and painting it mentally, even if I'm not sketching in my notebook. And I don't know if other artists do that, but I'm sure we all have our weird things, and that's one that I notice I'm doing all the time, is breaking things down or noticing the way the light hits things. And if I'm kind of wanting to take it further, I will try to take a picture of it or write those notes down. And then a lot of times I'll just start painting from my head. I like that paintings for me are very simple. When you look at them, you can tell that that's how I'm being inspired. I'm not as concerned that it looks like a certain place, as more I'm concerned that it has the feeling or the emotion or the memory of what that was that I saw. And I just let those come out as I paint. This is one of my favorite paintings. It's one that I kept, and it's called At My Weakest. And it was one of those paintings that I just started painting and just wanted to do a painting, and I just started going, and it was horrible. It was not going well, and the green, especially with my process, is really tricky because once it sets on the surface for very long, it stains really quickly. Some other colors I can let sit longer and they don't stain the background as well, but green is one that if I don't get right the first time and I mess with it very much, it's going to be green underneath, and I never can get a pretty yellow after that. It's always got this green under hue, or I can't quite get the blue right without having this green underneath. And anyway, as I was painting this painting, it was just, I struggled with it. Normally I paint fairly quickly, and I painted this one probably 100 times. I painted it, didn't like it, painted it, didn't like it, and I just kept painting this painting, and finally I said, all right, this isn't working. You throw it away, and so I told myself, all right, you have 15 minutes. You can work on it for 15 more minutes, and if it's not where you want it, then it's time to be done. Throw it away, start over, you'll be happier. And so, which I actually do fairly often. If I get working with a painting and it's going nowhere, I just learn from it and throw it away, start over. Especially with watercolor, it's sometimes the process of getting there doesn't mean you have to hold on to the good thing that you did. Learn from it and start fresh. But this painting, I said, all right, you have 15 minutes. And so I worked at it. I worked at it for 15 minutes, and then I was really happy with it. And it was like I just turned the corner. And so I remind myself of that sometimes when things are just not going very well, that they just maybe need 15 more minutes, and there's hope at the end. This is actually a bigger one that I did recently as a study from that one. This one, I'm starting to try and push myself a little bit more to get bigger and less, 5 by 5 and more 5 by 5. And so that's what that one is from. This is the difference between the watercolor on board and the watercolor on canvas. And then this one's also the difference is you can see how canvas versus board is a lot more soft, and it definitely doesn't hold a hard edge, which may be what you're looking for, or maybe not. But so it's a very different style if you go from the board to canvas. All right, and then the next pictures I just have in here to kind of introduce as I'm going to get into the demo, kind of a little bit more my process. So I'm going to kind of explain my process, and then I'll start painting. So in order to do a painting like this, I would paint the whole painting in a black, brown, gray. So it would be a black, brown, gray square, and then I scrape off with water and toilet paper and brushes all of the white area. And then to come back in and add color, I will do a wash over it. And it's really tricky because if it's wet at all, it will pull back off. So you can paint and you can layer as long as you do one quick layer, and then you have to have it completely dry again before you put a second layer on. So that's just kind of starting to talk about my process. This one is graffiti from a train, and I put that one on there because instead of doing a white background, I did yellow gesso, and then painted that gray blue over the top, and then scraped off the yellow where it's the bright yellow, and then I did layers of other yellow on top of that. So, and then this one just showed you how much detail you can get with this process. I don't know if you can see that from there, but these are just hand painted, again, subtracting and layering one swipe at a time. And then, as I said, green is one of those that are really tricky to paint with because it stains the surface, and so does red. And so with red, I wasn't able to paint the whole painting red. I had to paint the individual leaves red, and then I had to get them more right the first time because red is less, it doesn't forgive as much, and you can't come back with it. And then this last one, so what I will normally do is paint the sky and the ground, and then work the two as I'm pulling and layering. And so anyway, I'll go ahead and get into my demo, and hopefully you can kind of understand how my process works and what it is. So I guess I didn't really explain the boards that I paint on, but I'll go ahead and show you them. This is a gator board, and I put 3 coats of gesso on it. I use Utrecht brand professional, and I don't water it down at all. I put 3 solid coats right out of it on there, so it's pretty thick and heavy. And I do that the same whether I'm painting on gator board that's going to go behind glass or board that's not. And then to finish, and once I'm completely done, I use a Krylon matte finish, and it gives it a nice protective, UV protective glaze that doesn't have to be behind glass. And so even my big ones that aren't behind glass are watercolor. And then I wanted to show you just the difference between watercolor on a hard board and then watercolor gesso on paper. And so if you get a chance to come look, they're very similar teams, but this one's on a board and that one's on watercolor paper that I gessoed. So you can kind of see the difference. And then this one as well is watercolor paper that has gesso over the top, and it gives it a really neat texture. So if you have a chance to look at those closely, they're a little bit different.
So if you use paper with gesso, do you use a heavy paper like 300 pounds?
Yeah, and I prep it just like I would a watercolor. I soak it, staple it, and then gesso. Once I let it dry, start over. So I soak it, staple it, let that set, and then gesso. Let that dry overnight, and then paint.
So the big one, the little girl, is
Yes.
just
That was an old one when my daughter was little. That's just a straight watercolor.
okay.
Because I really love this process, but it's nice to remind myself and go back a little bit to get the discipline that you have to have with working with watercolors. There's nothing like watercolor to remind you to be disciplined and to be loose at the same time. It's like the weirdest contradiction, but perfect. Okay, I can be there. Okay, so I like to tape off my surfaces with just masking tape. I've tried the blue painter's tape, and I like the cheap stuff better. It just works. It doesn't mess with my color as much. I think sometimes the blue influences the color on it a little bit too much for me, and it kind of starts to take over a little. But having the tape on there, especially as I was getting started, I've been a little bit able to control the water more as I've worked with it for the last 15 years. But especially at first, having this tape on the board has been a way of controlling the water, because it's a tricky process. You can't have it too wet, and you have to wait for it to dry. Especially if you're a watercolorist and and you love that medium, it's a fun way to work. Usually I like to start with, I usually just like to start a painting and I'll have a sketch or, like I said, just the colors in mind, but I'm going to try to paint a painting tonight that I've painted multiple times so I can go a little quicker, and hopefully we'll get something we like in a little bit of time. So I probably won't talk a lot as I paint because I'm not good at doing both. But if you have any questions, we'll hopefully get some time to do that, and I probably won't talk a lot. Can you see this part that I'm doing too?
Yeah, we can. So you're a real believer in clean palettes, aren't you?
Yes, my palettes. Actually, and I don't like a wet palette. You know, a lot of people will spray their palette. I like to control my water, and so I don't spray it first. I don't want it to be wet. I want to decide exactly how much water I give it. And yeah, it's messy. I didn't even clean it up for you. I was like, you're gonna get this is how I paint. Oy. Hard not to move it. Can I move it closer at all to me?
A little bit, yeah.
We can zoom out.
That's
too.
good.
Okay.
You can zoom the camera out to give.
I feel like I'm reaching a little bit. I actually usually paint on the floor. I don't paint on the table. My back one day is going to kill me.
So the lines that you got from the gesso, is that from the brush that you applied the gesso with?
Yes. And I use the same kind of brush to apply the gesso as I use to paint. I usually, if it's a bigger painting, I'll use one of these. And I'm not a brush snob. I use really cheap brushes because I beat them up and then I throw them away. But my small, I call these beater brushes, and then I use Utah brand of my regular brushes. But I'm not really finicky about my brushes.
You might be able to pull it closer to you because he zoomed out.
Okay. And so this is what I call a beater brush. So I can get it to dry and push it into the places I want.
You do what you need to do because we can zoom the camera in and out for what you need.
Yep.
So I use very little water and a lot of paint.
What brand of paints?
I like Grumbacher, except I don't like Grumbacher's Payne's Gray. I like Winsor Newton's. Sometimes I'll use the professional Utrecht brand, but usually I like Winsor Newton and Grumbacher. But it depends. Every color is different for different brands, and so some I like one of and some I like another one of. Every once in a while I go in and I try to remind myself to try a different one, just so I can see what it's like and not get stuck in that these are my paints, these are the ones I like, and not try something new. I usually go back to the ones I like, but still. My uncle's an artist, and he paints these amazing paintings, and I just found out he uses 4 tubes of paint, and that's all he uses at all, just four colors, and he gets amazing colors with those 4 tubes of paint, and it baffles me. It's amazing.
Is that oils, though?
Yeah, oils. Yeah. But still, anyway.
You can be immortal like the rest of us. Just be mere mortal. We'll just be regular people.
Oh, good.
different. Like I said, I usually paint on the floor, trying to not paint sitting on the floor. Let's just set this up differently. Move the table.
Well, you can move it closer to you if you need to.
No, I'm just saying, I usually just, I'm a sitter on the floor, so it's just weird to even be up at all. It's funny though, I've tried to go to a table and it seems like the lighting is different up here. I like the floor light. There's a lot less glare.
Sorry, is that olive green or?
She's mixing it.
Yeah, no, you're mixing it. But
I have usually a sap green and a hooker's green and a viridian. I kind of,
a messy version.
kind of messy.
Awesome.
I don't know what they are anymore. Sometimes I can dig underneath and I'm like, oh, that was green, I thought, or yellow under there. So the texture is coming from that background gesso, and it's really strong. It's a really strong vertical.
And then you can just sand it if you don't want as much vertical.
Yeah. You could sand it down completely if you wanted. It will change the, if you sand the gesso down, it will not stay on the surface as well, and it will absorb a lot quicker. So you'll get a really different look than this because it will gesso, like it will almost be more like a paper in that regard, where it won't let you lift your whites out. You can see if it's not wet enough, it won't go down into the cracks. Like it has to have enough water to fall down in. It's hard to paint and talk. I don't know if it can be a bad painting or not. Guess we'll find out.
Different sides of your brain.
Right, 15 more minutes. We'll give it 15 minutes.
So when you say gator board, that's just foam core, right?
It is. It's a hard foam core.
Where do you get it?
Cheap Joe's has it. Utrecht sells it. I buy it actually from a regional sign company because they give me really big, huge sheets, and they'll cut them down for me and everything. And it's a professional sign company instead of an art company, so they don't charge you, because I swear if they knew I was doing it for art, they'd double it.
Yep.
But you're not going to use, the gator board you'll take it up off the gator board, right?
No, it'll go in the frame on the gator board.
Gator board's relatively affordable.
Yeah, it is acid-free. It's pretty durable. Do you want to pass that around, or do you want to leave it there so you can look at it afterward? Either way.
So when you gesso, do you intentionally put your brush strokes in certain direction?
I just do it
Board.
vertically. The painting I did of my son Mason, the gesso I did randomly in that one. Where it's a portrait, I let it go differently. And I've always painted vertically, or I've always done it vertically. A little while ago I started a painting and I wasn't paying attention and I turned it on its edge on accident. So one day when I'm rich and famous, maybe that will be like worth more because I messed up. I don't know. I have those conversations with myself sometimes. when I'm rich and famous, or when I'm dead.
This is just shows for this.
Hey Tom, can you get me some clean water?
Sure.
I'm already to the point where I want to clean my water out because I'm not getting the color I want here. I try to clean my water out fairly often as I'm painting. Some people like to keep, I learned from Tom, he likes to keep his water dirty as he goes back in to his paintings. It has a richer color and it kind of does that atmosphere that it gives it. I don't like that. I've got enough atmosphere over here, I think.
You have good atmosphere.
I should have brought two so I could have you going back and forth. Thank you. All right, how am I doing on time? What time is it?
It's not midnight yet, you're good. 20 after.
20 after 8.
Okay, so I literally have 15 minutes
I think about 25.
About 25.
to make this perfect. No pressure. It's like doing those quick draws for art in soup.
Yeah.
They have like 40 people watching you and the most horrible painting. You're like trying to get it perfect and right and not be nervous.
How do you find that the gesso reacts compared to like watercolor paper? It's just more durable, obviously, but.
It's very different. It stays on the surface. You can tell I'm I'm really controlling my water. If it gets too wet, it just will pool. It will pool on the surface, and it is really hard to. I don't know. It's different. I don't know how to describe it because it's so different than watercolor paper.
There's a watercolor gesso, but this is just regular, huh?
I just use regular gesso. Mm-hmm. There's probably 1,000 ways to paint and do things different. This is just.
That would let the paint soak
Yeah, I
in.
need clean water again. Sorry.
You need a bigger bucket.
Okay, I'm sorry. But just that much color in there already has too much color for what I want. So this is one of the things that I really like about it is you can then come through and totally define your shapes, and you've got that clear, clean white that you would normally have to paint around. Okay, I'm ready. Just kidding. I'll give you a minute.
I guess we could have put you on the floor.
I didn't
Just
think
take the
about it
table
until I'm at the table wondering why I'm out of my element. Not that I'm in front of people, that's not awkward at all.
Do you want the chair moved, or?
No, it's good. I actually am leaning on the chair.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's for stage 2.
How's that good double ply toilet paper?
Yes.
Not paper towels?
I like toilet paper better. Paper towels don't absorb the same. It does sometimes leave some little fuzz, but there's certain brands that leave less.
Toilet tissue connoisseur.
Right?
Yeah, what's your favorite brand?
I like the Charmin Strong, not the Charmin Soft.
Charmin Strong. Okay. Noted.
And we don't want to tell them either that you're using it for art or they charge you.
Right?
How did you know?
So now this is where I was saying you can layer, but you have to be really tricky with it. You can go over it once, but if you go over it a second time, it will pull up and pull off. Patient is not where I need it to be, and I want to rush it, but I'm going to be patient and let it sit for a second.
We're used to waiting. We have to do it with our own paintings, so it's all
I'm mostly just doing that to make sure it's not really wet, because if it's really wet and I do that, I could just draw a big white line through my painting.
Then you'll have to imagine something else.
Right, and it will be something else. And I like Payne's Gray instead of a black or anything like that. It has a lot of blue in it, except for Grumbucker. It doesn't have enough blue in it. It's all blue. Grumbucker? How do you say that? Like I'm saying it that.
that's how we say it.
Can you still see it?
Yes,
Okay.
Yep,
I lost what I was doing for a minute.
it's okay.
It's probably a good thing. I need to kind of get out of my head.
We zoomed it back, so you got a little wiggle room.
So when you wipe that with the big brush, what are you doing?
Blurring, smearing, pushing, I don't know. Drying. Sometimes I'm just drying the paint.
me to refresh the one, or?
I'm good actually, because I'll get here and then clean in there, so it
Okay.
should be okay now. I might paint from now on with 2 cups. Gosh, I've been doing it hard for way too long.
Especially if you get off the floor.
Yeah, getting off the floor, that's true.
One of these days, I'll figure it out. Sorry, I'm getting a little quiet and going internal.
None of us get that.
Right? You always talk while you paint.
That's right.
You love it when there's distractions.
That's right. We
Someone
love it.
should be saying mom right now. Mom, mom.
Can I play on the Wii?
Jokes.